Thumbs up. Okay, simplifying unit economics and pricing for early stage startups is the title that I chose for this, because I am planning to just talk in a simple terms, but trust me, there is some math and there is some concept of a very, very basic math. Hopefully I don't bore you. And I'll try to skip it, but talk about the concepts in short. And also, if I'm too fast and you have a question, I urge you to basically keep writing the questions in the chat box, and we can address them at the end of the presentation. So as promised, let me remove these from, I'm not sure if it shows up, but as promised, let's get this out of the way. My name is Umar Rabhan, and I've been in the startup ecosystem basically the past 12 years. My first couple of jobs were actually startups. I've worked with some big companies, some big names like Heinz and that kind of a scale of companies, but I've also founded and worked and invested in startups as well. I have failed a lot, let me tell you, and there is some success along the way. I'm an angel investor, a limited partner, and a couple of local funds. But I am an engineer. I'm a mechanical design engineer that turned into a startup guy. So hopefully, whatever I will talk about today is actually practical experience that I got from the past few years. So enough about me. Let's jump to the topic at hand. So we're going to talk about unit economics, from a concept perspective, and why is it important for startups. And then I'm going to focus on the operational unit economics versus the total unit economics versus make your own unit economics, which sounds very interesting. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about how is that linked to pricing, and how could you link it to your pricing from a unit economics perspective. And then we'll try to end this presentation and have a fun discussion. By the way, all of the photos that you will see in this presentation are photos from Saudi Arabia. So if you're interested to know where they are, maybe I can answer, maybe I won't be able to answer, but there are some brilliant AI tools that can tell you where that place is in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So unit economics, there is a great book called Economics by Michael Parkin, and it talks about economics and what is economy. And he has defined economics as the social science that studies choices that individuals, businesses, and governments and entire societies make as they cope with scarcity and the incentive that influence and reconcile those choices. What does that mean? Economics is basically that social science that help us control how scarce everything that we got is, and how can we help it being sustainable with our choices, right? And there are two branches, macroeconomics and microeconomics, and he goes on with a little bit of definition there that I'm not going to bore you with, but one of them look at the big picture, which is macroeconomics and the performance on a national economy level, and micro to the individual or a business and the decisions they make and how they influence the overall bigger picture, right? So unit economics as a concept is actually part of the microeconomics theory. I am not an economist expert, but I am a little bit influenced economics-wise because of my father. My father is an economics expert in that sense, but I will talk from a startup perspective here. So why is this important for startups? Startup-specific unit economics. Did I lose connection here with everybody?
No, we're listening intently.
Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it just kicked me out for no reason from the presentation. So why is unit economics important for startups, right? I have defined it from a pure startup scope as the measure of a product or a service profitability / loss or success / failure potential of a unit, right? But how do you measure that? You normally measure it based on a product or a service based cost factors operationally or beyond that. This is a little bit of an academic, definition, but let me just simplify it. It's like when you measure metrics on a unit level in different functions, and it's normally related to cost, but sometimes it's linked to efficiency that is linked to cost, right? Or it's linked to some sort of a rate that is initially will impact your cost. positively. If you impact your cost positively, this gives you a better performance. So in short, it's overall performance metrics of a unit, right? So let's look at that a little bit deeper. If you want to do that, and if you and your startup have different functions, right? And you have your operations and you have your marketing and you have your logistics, for example, if it applies, or whatever functions that you want to monitor. And then you would require it would be required. I think if we could be on mute, guys, I would really appreciate it. But if it would be required that we do some calculations and development of the financial model. And this is normally it's called the best financial estimate. It's basically your P&L, but embedded in the P&L, you have these unit economics metrics. So it's not just revenue and cost, but then you have it per product, cost per product, retention rate, right? And most of you have that, and that's great. But why are we talking about that? Because not only calculation development is needed, but you need to monitor it and report it continuously, because that will lead eventually to a better optimization. That's what I have put at the bottom. Optimization of what? Optimization of each unit add up to an optimization of the overall performance. So you adjust, you monitor, and you control, optimize different unit metrics. This will give you a best estimated control of probability of success or failure. At the end of the day, it's a best estimate of probability. It's probable that I will succeed if I follow this plan. It's better than not having anything, right? So let's look at an example that comes from a unit economics of marketing, for example. We all know it, right? Cost per customer. Everybody knows this, I hope. Why is that important? Because you could monitor it, bring it down, have better performance financially in that aspect, reach a better path to profitability, and which is something that we will talk about in the next slide. So all unit measures for operational, admin, and general performance per unit in theory. Even HR could be linked to that when I'm talking about office employees. And it's not performance of just how good they're doing. That's important. But no, you can link it directly to cost and how you can optimize that. So unit economics will help you optimize or be more efficient the following: cost, operationally, marketing, and otherwise. Is my cost too high? Is my cost too low, right? And the result of asking that question, you will have a cost analysis, you will have cost control, and you will have cost optimization. Pricing, it will optimize your pricing. Is my price margins too low or too high, for example? The result you will make just by asking that question, market pricing, you would understand market pricing analysis, and market entry strategies. If I know the pricing of the market, I can potentially put certain strategies that will help me penetrate, right? If I know that everybody's doing 100, I can jump in with a 50 at some point if I have a good strategy, not just for the fact that I'm 50% off, right? But at the end of the day, a best financial model. So if you have clarity on all of that, you've done all of these great analyses, what happens with that clarity is you have clarity on cost and potential revenue. And then you have clarity on path to profitability. So the core importance of unit economics is optimization of cost. It starts with operational efficiency. It starts with marketing, let's say strategies, but then at the end of the day, it's cost, basically optimization that leads to path to profitability. Because at the end of the day, if you want to do a non-for-profit, that's different. But you are running a business at the end of the day, right? It doesn't mean don't have sympathy, but from a numbers perspective, path to profitability. Break-even analysis is a result of that question. What is my path to profitability? When will I break even? When am I going to be profitable, right? What are the different scenarios? These type of analyses, normally investors like to see at some point of time. Sometimes if, whenever you have the time, don't waste your time doing useless things. We're going to talk about that. But it's really good to know, it's like, hey, if we follow this plan that we have tested among other plans, we are planning to hit this at some point of time, the profitability, right? But it's also more important is growth sustainability. So you would end up with a sustainable financial operations. Sustainable means that it could actually expand without burning all of the cash that I got, all of the employees, my product, whatever it is. So path to profitability and growth to sustainability is the result of the true result of doing a really close-up, a good close-up and a deep dive on unit economics, right? Enough about this jargon. Maybe we could look into a couple of fun examples that would just give examples of a unit economics financially. I'm not here to talk about marketing, guys. If you want to talk about marketing, we can tackle that at a different session. It's hard to cram into, but this is on a unit economics from a total kind of profit and loss aspect, operations and otherwise, right? We'll look into an example on that. So let's agree on one thing before we jump into this. Startups can be unit profitable or profitable per unit operationally or totally. Either an operational level, unprofitable, or everything, on every penny or real that I spent, unprofitable, or make your own unit economics. I've called that intentionally make your own because I have a message that I want to put out there. So we'll tackle it when we get to it. So let's talk about being unit profitable on an operational level. So operationally and simply is your operation cost. It's what is being paid or spent on an operational level on your product. If you are a traditional business and you have a raw material or, that's the very first layer. How much is your raw material cost you? What's your core product, your basic product or service cost you? So imagine if you are selling, for example, something with 5 riyals and it's just the raw material or the core product, and you're selling for a riyal and 1 halala, then you are selling it with a 1 halala profit on a raw material level. Now let's take to just an extra level. What about your core product or service or raw material, plus your labor, plus your ops team, if you have people just either on the computer, since we're tech companies, or people who just move things around and just help things happen, and other operational costs. That's another level. And I have just simple examples, but we'll run through a big example in a little bit. But then what if all of that and plus logistics? Then what if all of that and the plus rentals or whatever, anything that is directly related to your operations? Cost divided by the unit sold is your unit economics as a cost from a cost perspective, right? So being operationally profitable takes into account operationally related cost items divided by the number of units sold. Done. And that includes logistics. I throw it out there because some companies have logistics, okay? And it's very important. So a real example. Why is a tech startup? It's not a real example. I mean, it's a good example, but what I mean is like, it's a practical example, let's say. Why is a tech startup that makes smart home AI-powered security cameras? They spent 1 million riyal to produce the camera systems, and that includes technicians and ops teams. Good. And they spent another 500,000 to store and deliver 100 security camera systems. The system has a price of 20,000 Saudi riyals, and they sold them all. I have a list of questions. I'm going to read them, and I want us to think together, and then I'm going to show the answers together, all right? I mean, it's no rocket science, but it's just so we can connect on the same logic, guys, okay? So what is the total operating expense in this sense? Basically, you take all of the costs that you see in front of you, how much they spent on this operation before selling it. What is the total sales revenue? What is the revenue? What is the revenue per unit? So what is the cost per unit? And what is the net income per unit? And then a final question, is this company profitable operationally? So I'm pretty sure most of you, know all of these questions because it's straight up, but just for the sake of connecting on the same logic, which is very important when discussing these topics, let's go to the next, where the answers are there. So total operating expenses, we have said in this example that they've spent 1 million riyal in production, including the operations team, and they've spent 500,000 riyal to store it and deliver it. So it's 1.5 million, great. So what's the total sales? They have 100 units. They sold each for 20,000, that's 2 million riyals, right? What's the revenue per unit? Revenue per unit, you basically take the overall revenue. You don't subtract anything. I have made 2 million divided by the units. And then you have made 20,000, which is here the same as the sales price, right? Makes sense because I have only one product with one price. It's not always this clean, right? This is an example, and we'll address that later. So what is the cost per unit? Take your total cost and divide it by your total units, and you end up with 15,000 riyals per unit. And the net income of this operation is 5,000. So to answer the question, is the company profitable operationally? It's like, yes. But after counting everything operationally, I'm making 5,000 riyals per unit. It's very important to understand that. The terminology is here is sometimes it's, these letters that I put to the side, because you can name these things differently according to your startup. It doesn't matter as long as it's per unit, but it's revenue per unit, revenue per service, revenue per order, or something like that. Net profit per order, per unit, per service, per subscription. It's the unit level. Put your own acronyms, but understand them. But sometimes, make sure other people in your team understand them. Otherwise, you're just, shouting out letters, right? Let's go to what happens. So this is, in my opinion, the very first level of anything, unit economics, profitability-wise, is if you are not profitable operationally, just by design from the beginning, then it's not sustainable. Unless you have another plan that I'm just talking on a basic level. If you are not operationally profitable, then you are not sustainable. If you're not sustainable, investors will not be excited about this unless you're a genius, you have a brilliant plan, or a good salesman. And I have a thought about that. But anyways, let's go to the next one. Total profitability, it's very clear. It takes everything into account, right? Let's look into the unit economics of that on the same example, how it changes. So it takes into account all operating costs and all other cost items divided by the number of units sold. The same example, the same questions, but now we have more cost added, right? Now we have 200,000 for salaries, employees, and we have 150,000 in marketing cost of sale, for example, and 50,000 other costs, right? I don't know, like some sort of an accounting firm, whatever you want to call it, but that's admin. And then they are also still selling the same units. They're 100, and they're also selling for 20,000 riyals a piece. What is different now if I count everything? This is total profitability, unit economics, high level, right? Without digging too deep. On the same example, my costs have risen to 1.9 from 1.5, right? Because I included all of the other costs. And my revenue is still the same. I'm doing great, but my cost is higher now because I counted everything. This brought me to 1,000 per unit net income. So is the company profitable? Sorry, it's not operationally. And the question, is it profitable totally? Yes, absolutely. I am fully profitable after everything that I've spent and all of the expenses, 1,000. Hooray, this is amazing. This is the dream of any company to reach that point, right? The reason I'm showing these two examples is very important. You will never be able to reach the total profitability if you don't have operational profitability. That's the core. And why? Because if you noticed, it's office employees, marketing, cost of sales, and other costs. All of these costs are necessary to make the operational element, more successful, but they're secondary at the same time. The core is whatever I'm making, I'm selling operational. I need to sell it higher first. Then this extra cost should not be contributing to my cost very much, right? So, but it's if you want to reach total profitability, this is something that you need to look into and think about, right?
So, Umar, according to this, if I may ask, office employees here are not related to the sales or to the operation of creating the product, right? They're not a direct cost, or it's irrelevant.
Sure. I think first of all, I'll answer this, Ahmed, and thank you for the question. But I would like to run through the presentation. Then we'll have like a 40 minutes discussion. I think it's better if anybody wants. But to answer this question, Ahmed, is depending on if your office employees don't actually do anything operational, it should not be part of your operational cost from an accountant perspective. But what I will recommend you is the following, because each company has different classification. That's why I have make your own. I'll show you in a little bit. Sit down with your accountant if you have one, or somebody who is actually an accountant, just get the thoughts and understand from them, but then you make those decisions. But there are actually accounting standards, right, that you need to run by. But some people, some software companies, for example, they consider some employees who are doing something that could be described as a sales effort. They consider them part of their operational cost. You see what I mean? Because they say, I cannot sell my product without these guys, so I'll count them towards my operational cost. So I'm not profitable unless I count these into my cost, for example. But each setup is different. And to answer that correctly for your own startup, I think you should sit down with an accountant. This is just to ask the questions. And to let's say simplify the unit economics perspective.
Right, I was just asking, just from the perspective of the slide, because it says office employees. So I just wanted to just double check. Do we also include people that are involved in the sales transaction, or that's just office employees that are separate from the sales transaction? So that was my question.
Yeah. What I'm saying is it depends on your setup. It depends on your company. So we can maybe look into this after the presentation. I will give you my thoughts, but an accountant will give you a better informed decision. You see what I mean? Like your HR team does not make your cameras in this company. The HR team is not making the smart AI-powered cameras. They don't deliver them. They don't actually even do anything on the tech side. For example, your admin, the assistants, the salespeople, that's why I put it as a cost of sales. Sometimes some people put the salespeople towards the operation. Some people put them as the part of the cost of sale. Each company does something different. There's no right or wrong. It depends on what you want to measure. But ask an accountant, because I don't want to give you guys the wrong advice on that topic particularly. But normally, anybody in the office is not part of the operations unless they're an operational team, monitors something, or they're actually programming something directly to your software, and they're part of the ops team. Okay. Let's anytime. We'll get back to this, Ahmed, I promise you. So let's go to the next one. Make your own. And this actually, thank you, Ahmed, for asking that question. Make your own is basically, imagine you're a startup and you have multiple functions. You have different functions. Let's say you have your marketing function, you have your operations functions, you have your tech function, you have your HR function, whatever function you have. And then you have also a cost for each function. These costs, all of these costs basically combine to become the overall cost of your startup or your entity. And again, I'm always focusing on cost, but it's not only cost, it's different metrics too. As I said, it could be a rate, it could be, a ratio, anything that you can optimize that will give you a better performance, that will, at the end of the day, better performance and optimization normally in most cases is, either cut the cost or double the output, right? This is very important, guys. Unit economics, if you can either increase the output of a unit or reduce its cost, you're basically getting closer to your path of profitability. So if you have specific needs that, you need to monitor specific unit metrics for your entity that normally other people don't monitor, guess what? You should monitor them, right? But you actually need to decide that. And when I say your specific function, because I'm talking to different startups here, you could have a SaaS company. You could be, some sort of a platform that does something. You could be, something with some hardware, or, you have hardware and a tech, software with it. You could be actually neither one of these, but, you are a tech-enabled approach. So depending what you need to monitor, you might want to see, am I profitable at a certain unit? And then an example of that is what Ahmed just asked. let's say you thought that you need to understand if you're profitable with your sales team cost included or not. Guess what? Add all of your operations and then add the costs of salespeople, right? At that day or that month, and divide it by all of the sales that you've made that month unit-wise. So to the example of the startup Y, for example, let's say, there were 1 million operationally, for example, and then we added the 500 of the 200 of the office employees, for example. Let's call them sales employees. And you just wanted to say, am I profitable just with my operations plus the sales? Because you want to see, can I optimize my sales cost or my sales team? You want to monitor that. But if you don't monitor it and look into it, you will not know. So that is the make your own unit economics, because then you can go and talk to somebody. It's like, listen, I'm operationally profitable. Not only that, I'm also profitable with my operations plus my sales costs or my sales team, for example. And actually, if I add anything extra, the HR, the marketing is important, but that is actually, no, we're still not profitable there, but we will be profitable, 12 months down the road if we continue with our growth percentage that we've been achieving for the past, 6 months, for example. This is what I mean. But be honest and direct. Some startups use this make your own unit economics to represent things that are, useless. I have this, and it's like, well, what does that mean? How does that actually make you more efficient? How does that optimize your cost? How does that actually make you gain more customers, right? This is what I meant by make your own. So I'll move on to the next one, and which is pricing. Pricing. I thought when this was actually being requested, from me to present unit economics, we can talk about unit economics for honestly a long time, and also multiple sessions. Pricing is also a different ball game. So this will be just a simple kind of approach. Then we're going to talk about an example, and I hope it's helpful, right? So pricing, to be profitable, price needs to be higher than operational cost. Yeah, of course, right? You cannot sustain a business without it. This is just very clear, very simple. Yes, there are exceptions. And yes, there are things we can talk about. We'll talk about it later. Example, if you are basically, we'll talk about it later. It's fine. But then also needs to be, from a business perspective, from finance perspective, higher than all of my costs per unit. If a cost cost me 20 totally, I want to sell higher than that. That should be my goal. Even if I don't achieve it now, I should achieve it at some point of time, right? And units are very important. And we're going to talk about a concept of the, economy of scale in a little bit. It's not on the slides. I'm just going to talk about it for maybe 30 seconds. So pricing needs to be more than total operational cost and all of the other costs, but also needs to be competitive or within the market competition pricing. Why? Because if I'm selling less than the market and I'm still got good metrics and good profitability operationally, guess what? That's a very attractive offering to customers. Or if you're within, then you're actually not far. So other customers might consider, all right, they're close. The price is not bad. So they would also come in if you have something to sell like that, product or service, right? If you're way higher, you potentially would actually have a smaller kind of segment, but maybe you have something completely different, right? Like, oh, I am way better quality than everybody. If that is part of your strategy, and you know that you want to sell something more expensive, but you will shrink your market, then go ahead, test it and see how that works for you. And if it works, you double down, right? That's the trick of anything that works. Whatever works, double down. So, but it's also pricing, we said, it takes into account marketing, price, and sensitivity. This is very important. If I set up pricing here, in Saudi, for example, of a certain price, this pricing might not be good in Egypt or in UAE or in Jordan, or even all the way across in the US, right? So price and sensitivity, and also the change in price and sensitivity is very important. How would you know that? This normally would be something very clear to you from your competition landscape. But if you are starting something new and you don't know what the pricing that I need to set for the market, guess what? Get the first customer, get those opinions, get those thoughts, because that will be the best thing you can ever do. All right. So let's go back to our company Y. We know all of the information with all of the costs, right? We have now a 1,000 per unit. That is, this company is profitable, actually, just fully, not operationally. So I'm going to delete it this time so we don't mess our, the question up. So what is the margin here in the markup? Let's understand it. We're going to the basics, guys. You're way smarter than I am, and I've been talking for too long, so I appreciate your patience and also your interest. But what is the profit margin? It's very clear. It's what is my increase in the price, right? How much am I making from a sale? It's actually not the increase. So it's 5%. I'm making 5% more than my cost in this example, right? The markup is how much have I increased. So one is looking as like, hey, that's how much I've made. And the other one is like, how much would I need to increase to achieve this margin? This is important to look at it from this basic perspective because of what we will talk about next. So pricing normally, if you want to set up a good pricing, goes back to the previous slide. Competitive within competition pricing, right? It takes into account market sensitivity. That's the basics. So in this example, this company have a 5% profit margin. Why? It could be because they're following the market. They actually have a strategy. They said, hey, we want to get a 5% total margin, which is amazing, by the way, guys. 5 total profitability. It's not operational. That's really good, by the way. You know what I mean? And in some cases, it's not bad. And then we'll talk about some, maybe in a different session, we could talk about some of the financial ratios that could help you that. Some of the most successful companies, profitability-wise, worldwide, they fall into the range of, 2 or maybe 3 or 4%. These, and they're celebrated, revenue over expense in general, which is EBITDA to revenue ratio, right? But that's a different topic, guys. I don't want to confuse you here. Okay, so some basic strategies that a lot of startups use, they're actually marketing driven. The pricing strategies. When I say pricing strategies, some of them are actually marketing driven efforts that will impact your pricing. Let me tell you what I mean. We've all heard the freemiums and the free trials and the discounts off and this and that. What happens when you do this? You're basically selling units at a less price. If you have a freemium, basically you've given a subscription for 1 month for 0, right? Nothing. Yes, you can mark it up as a marketing cost or whatever, but if you want to look at it as a unit, I just sold a unit for 0. Free trial. I just sold like a whole month of my trial for 0 reals, right? With the potential that I'll get them later, granted, but on a unit level, it's 0, right? But we all know this, or at least I hope. I wrote that even here on the slide. I hope we all know this basic stuff. But let's take a different approach. Let's look at other methods of pricing that could help me achieve a specific margin without actually that is not fully marketing. It's just marketing, it's business development, it's everything, right? Let's look at it. Sometimes you need to lose some margins in some products while gaining others. And I'm pretty sure some of you are familiar with that. So this introducing the average of a margin. All of the examples that we saw above, they just gave one product, one price, and that's where you're selling, that's where you get as a margin. But what if you have a sales mix or an average margin? An average margin means you have different pricing that will average into one margin. That is your target. A sales mix, I have different products of different margins. That gives me an average margin that I like. This normally works if you have one product, more than one product, or one product with simple variations. Think of Dropbox subscriptions, 3 different subscriptions, different pricing, right? How many people buy this? How many people buy this? How many people buy this? And this will help you with your actually pricing strategies, right? And this is the only example that I'm going to be talking about in pricing strategies because there are other strategies, but they could be marketing influenced or very commercial, and we can set that up for a different time if you guys like. But let's go to the example, all right? Because I still want to talk to Ahmed, by the way. So back to our why. I don't know what this company why is, but I just But I think X now has been taken out of the equation. So I put Y, and I'm pretty sure there is a company called Y. But back to the same company, the difference on the example is let's run it through it again so we remember. Y is a tech startup that makes smart home AI-powered security cameras. Each camera costs them everything, $19,000. They want to achieve an average 5% profit margin, which means they must sell at 20,000 average. If we said that, if they sell at 20 as an average, they would get that margin. So the business development team, the marketing teams, they scratch their heads for a long time on how they make sure this profit margin is sustained while they gain new customers. So there's a marketing perspective, and it's a pricing, and it's business development. They want to make more like money anyways. So they came up with 3 types of AI software ability for the same camera system. So they have a camera system, and they made 3 types of software subscriptions or features. One that sells for 21,000, right? I think I need to fix the numbers on it, but one that sells for 22,000 that has 100% features, right? And one that sells for 21,000 that has 70% of the features, and then 19,000. One that has sells for 19,000 that has only 20% of the features, right? When they did this, they did the simple analysis that you see in the white box. They said to still get the margin of a 5% contribution margin, they would need to sell at cost, meaning like breaking even on 53 products, 53 units. They will sell them at cost. Everything that cost me here, I've sold it to 53 customers, exactly the same cost. And potentially those 53 people are what? They're all new customers, hopefully, right? Because it's a big discount or whatever. And then 34 for the 21,001 and 13 for the 22,000. So I have a price and specific units that gives me a contribution margin. And you can see the margins in the yellow right here. That is the margin target that they have. The message that I'm trying to get here, guys, and I also want to repeat again, the table is correct. I mistakenly didn't update the numbers ahead of, on the top of it. The message is the following. Different pricing that have different margins that gives you contributions to the total margin that you want. If you don't have that, you could potentially create that, even if you have a single product, just say, or a service. Just do some sort of a variation of the service or the product to either make it cheaper or make one that is higher and just offer it. If it's not going to cost you any kind of change, these guys didn't cost them anything. They just basically, they made the variation, they suppressed some of the features, and they created a good model like this. This is all theoretical. Does company Y or startup Y, have they tested this? I don't know. This is an example that I put for you guys, right? They need to test it and see if this works and come back and go on, go over it again. And this brings up the mentality of experimentation and trying things quick and changing them quick. And actually, if it works, double down. So if you do 10 experiments with pricing, normally the marketing people are the ones who are going to push you to do that. So if you have a great marketing team, they will be the people pushing your, the envelope with you and to your limits and your budget, but it's good. You need to control them. So you push these experimentation of pricing and see the reaction of the customers and stick to something of them. Whatever works with you, you can double down on it. But this is the concept of a contribution margin or a sales mix. This is an average margin. A sales mix means you have more than one product. Sometimes you're selling a product here and a service here, and you're selling milk on the side. You know what I mean? So this one needs to be looked at when it comes to sales margins. I have talked a lot, guys, and I hope it was just a good intro to this world if it's your first time. If you're an expert and whatever I said here was just you, just socializing with us, hey, it's good to have you. But I think this is everything that I have, but I have some final thoughts that I want to run through real quick. So unit economics. is very important to establish your financial estimates well and optimize performance for sustainable growth. Message, right? You may have to monitor some unit metrics that is specific for your startups. Experiment and decide, okay? Don't waste time or effort on useless metrics or KPIs. Guys, I know I'm talking about how to look into things and that, but don't waste your time measuring anything that is useless to you. It's good to have data. If you have a way of storing the data somewhere and just having access to it whenever you want, do that. That's fine. We have smart systems now. But do not waste your time or the team's time to do any analysis on anything that is useless, or don't keep track of it. Your time should be spent on your core product or your core service, right? Core product or core service or core whatever you're selling, right? Pricing depends on cost and desired margins, basically, right? Smart pricing takes market competition, market price sensitivity, and marketing strategies into account. That's smart pricing. And this is the last statement that apparently I like to quote myself, so let's do it again here. But a data-driven entrepreneur is better than 10 CFOs, in my opinion. I am 100% confident in that statement. And what I mean is, it's not the knowledge of CFOs, and I'm not trying to bring anyone off, financially down or anything. No. CFOs are risk mitigation driven, right? They want to mitigate the risk, and it's their job. Good. But if an entrepreneur with their venture and their risk appetite, with a good CFO, they're better than any other team. Because if they become data aware, they will make really great decisions when it comes to expanding, the potential of the business. Expand and not like going to other markets. No, but what I mean is as in growing the business more, because they will take the risky step. And this is it for us, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Let's open up for some questions. If you like, Khalid, or if you want to end this, I'm here for everybody. Appreciate.
Can I? Yeah. I have a question, if you don't mind.
And sure, yes. Let me see how I can make this bigger, right? Okay.
And VCs, and I will not put them as some sort of standard of knowledge, but let's say I've heard them frame it like when you're very small in the seed round, focus on, your product market fit, your MVP or traction. Series A, focus on revenue growth and prove that, that people will really pay for your product. And in Series B and onward, focus on unit economics. And what's your take on that philosophy?
I completely understand if somebody says that. But I also disagree with it. When I say unit economics, and also if you couple it with my message, do not monitor anything useless, it's very important that I know what I'm doing on a unit level from the get-go, because it's all of it takes from me is just a simple math. So let's say, Wissam, you have let's say your product is a tech product and you have a subscription model. Wouldn't you want to know, which you actually would? What I'm saying is, like, some people already monitoring unit economics and they don't know, they're not familiar with the concept of maybe unit economics, that, oh, that's what it's called, right? But I completely disagree with it. But do not waste your time on things that are bigger than your stage. That's it, right? So, but knowing your retention rates and knowing your subscription cost per subscription, your returned customer frequencies and all of that is actually important. So I do disagree with not. You have to focus on your core product. You have to focus on product market fit. But if it takes you just a simple model to do your initial unit economics, why wouldn't you do it? And you become more aware of your operations from the beginning. You can speak with it, speak with investors about it from the beginning. So I completely disagree not to pay attention to it. But inherently, you would have it from the beginning, most cases. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, you see what I mean? It's not like an added effort or like a big no. It should be like something that, hey, I think I should monitor this and that. That's my approach. Absolutely focus on the core product and the product market fit. Do not waste your time with accounting. Again, guys, if any accountants here, don't get mad at me. Do not waste your time with HR. Do not waste your time with core product as a CEO, but most of the time you have a co-founder. Most of the time you have, maybe a third team, let him, just something. So
Okay, thank you very much.
okay,
Amazing. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. Do we have any questions? Anybody? Or should I jump to? Yeah, who's
Sorry,
this?
yeah, it's Mohammed Harani. I have a question. So the R&D cost usually, is it considered in the unit economics?
R&D cost?
Yeah, R&D cost.
I'll give you a clear answer from my side. I don't know your business, so I don't know. Like, I don't know what you're doing. So even if you tell me what you're doing, I see MS Systems. I might have an opinion that it's operationally in, but normally R&D is not. I wouldn't, count it towards the operations whatsoever. Is your R&D? Ask yourself this question: is your R&D? Do you need to do an R&D before every time you ship a product? You see what I mean? No, R&D is actually something for development. Then, okay, good. Then we'll start doing something regularly. So normally not. But I will also say, guys, I am not a certified accountant or like someone with a CPA. I am a startup guy who's been doing this for a good number of years from the ground. That's what I'm sharing. Consult with your accountant or consult with your. But then again, don't forget, you're the entrepreneur with the risk, right? Don't let him stop you. That's what I'm saying. Is Harani lawyers part of the family, Muhammad, by the way?
No, not my.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you.
Any other question?
No, thank you. Not from my side. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Ahmed, I'm going back to you. So double down on the previous question.
Khalas, I'll call you after this.
No, seriously. No. Let's ask, and maybe we share just for a few minutes with everybody, and then.
No, it's just sometimes I think one of the things that I've seen companies do it is that they add everything to the cost of the product, and when they do that, they can run out of competition easily because the prices will just go up, right? So they have to surgically count for, as you said, the right question would be, do I need these people every time I ship the product, right? If they are directly related to the product, then yes, then they need to be included. So I'll give you an example. Let's imagine that I have a team, a unit, right, in a different region. And in that unit, there is a finance guy, but his job is not the core finance of the company. His job is to develop financial plans for the customers, right? We actually get based on that we win deals and close deals with them. So that should be part of sales, not part of the G&A. That's just an example.
That's a great addition. I have to reiterate. Whatever you feel, you need to count. Normally, as a startup founder, I think you should count it, regardless of what the accountants would say. That's the only thing that I would say. Like, if you feel like, hey, I should count it because that's my measure, right? Doesn't mean that's what others would do. Doesn't mean that's the correct. There's nothing correct or wrong about including or not including anything. I'm not, guys. We're not submitting information to the to the zakat authority or the tax authority. No. This is something for you to look into and make sure how to optimize. Something to share with your investors after they invested in you. Something to share some with potential investors, but it's to optimize. To optimize and to make your operations better, to give you two things, if you remember: a path to profitability and a sustainable growth. That's so yeah, I'm absolutely count it, not count it, whatever. I think it's that message. How can I monitor? What can I monitor? What can I adjust? What can I control on a unit economics level to give me that path to profitability? I'm not going to be longer, but I wanted to talk about economy of scale. And simply from that simple perspective, I just want to say one example because it always opens up the eyes of anybody who's new to this. But you guys are an expert, and maybe and hopefully we learn from each other. If I sell 100 products at 10 riyal, or 10 products at 100 riyal, it's the same output. So scalability is very important in this stuff. When I monitor unit of economics, it will help me also set my targets for how many units I need to sell to be profitable, how many units I need to sell to reach that margin, how many units I need to sell of different margin contribution to get that overall target of an average margin or sales mix. So it is about scalability, right? You either need to price too high and sell too little, or sell too high and price too little. You will get the same output of your target. That's very, very important. Once you understand that, then you can manipulate the pricing however you like, in my opinion, right? But again, it's just my experience, my thoughts, guys. I hope at least if there's one useful thing, at least you got to see some cool pictures of Saudi Arabia that I added on the presentation. But hopefully you got more than that. I appreciate all of your times. Thank you, Khalid and the Misk team for this. Also the people from Plug and Play. I see all of the company names here, so hopefully one day I'll get to meet you all very soon, if that's happening anytime soon. If there are any no more questions, I think we call it a day, Khalid.
Yes, guys. Anyone have any last question?
Yes, Omar, if you don't mind. Just one question from my side here about the J curve. Could we consider that the J curve taking a bit of time, like 3 years sometime in product market fit? Can we extend this based on our unit economy by having the break even longer time to focus on expansion, or we don't want to be profitable at the beginning?
Yeah. I see what you mean. I got what you mean. I mean, look, that's a really good question. What I mean is, if you ask the question of, let's make it a general question. When will I reach my product's market fit? I would tell you, like, God knows. Like, no, like you can't, like, even one say, predict that. That's number one. Taking the unit economics to basically influence your plan of potential, right, of potential product market fit. I believe with monitoring your unit economics, the basic most important ones, you have a higher chance of, in my opinion, of probability, higher chance of probability. So your probability percentage will be higher. That's my opinion. I said it earlier. I said with monitoring, you remember that funny looking equation? Yeah. I said if you monitor, it will give you a better estimate that gives you a higher potential of probability, of like a percentage of probability. And what I mean by that, without monitoring or monitoring, right? I would pick monitoring and look into the data. I believe this will give me a higher probability. So how would that affect the J curve? I honestly don't know. But if I would definitely choose monitoring the basics. Back to Wissam's point, just look into the things that you really need to monitor and just keep them there, right? And just let the systems, like, we're all smart. We have systems, we have things that actually plug in numbers, and if it takes me just maybe a few punches on the keyboard every day, like, or someone in the team, then I'll definitely do it. Then I am well informed. I know my data. I'm not only data aware, I'm data driven, because if I see something, I can make a core business decision accordingly. So how would it affect it? I honestly don't know. We can do, what, it would be fun next time if we do an actual example of, a company operations, a full scale operational unit economics. And then we try to plug it into, influence it with some market data of product market fit of some startups, which we don't have, by the way. So this is such a difficult question. Like if I say here in Saudi, there are no data on but there is global data that we can look into. Like that's where you got this from. But yeah, it's a fun question, Mohammed. I don't know. I would just generally pick doing this. How would it influence it? I honestly don't know.
That's fine. Thank you, Omar. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you, Omar, for your time.
Appreciate
Uh,
you.
you are always like a part of Misk Accelerator successful journey. You've been with us like for now maybe 4 or 5 cohorts, and we always we always want your knowledge to be shared with our startup. Thank you for today and hope for more collaboration in the future.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Omar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Omar.